pulled away, Bitcoin goes down. When it gets added, Bitcoin goes up.
All
There
right.
are some stuff here that responds to price, but not the ebb and flows.
So when you talk about ebb and flows and liquidity, do you think most people understand what you're talking about? Is that like common knowledge in the trader world?
Actually, no. I was on Reddit the other day, and someone was like, "Oh my god, I keep hearing about global liquidity. Can you please explain it to me?"
Right. So it sounds like you're throwing out these terms, but I want to make sure that the everyman, like I'm not the everyman when it comes to this because I don't trade, but just being the GPT to your GPT-4, being the chat GPT to your GPT-4, I wanna I want some explanations here.
Well, the way that I see it is that if people don't know what global liquidity is, they're probably too dumb to understand my explanation.
Oh
So
my
just take a
God.
look at the red squiggly lines and the green squiggly lines, and then buy and sell from there. That seems pretty simple enough that
Right.
even someone like you or the listener can understand.
That's a great strategy. Insult the audience. You're gonna make
Okay.
it, Tom. You're gonna make it
All
in
right.
this business.
Okay. You
You
want
and
me to?
Donald Trump will make it in this. Actually, Donald Trump is more complimentary to us. It's the best audience in the world. You're the greatest audience. All right, go
Okay.
ahead.
You want people to feel worse because I'm about to explain it very clearly, and people are still going to be like, "Okay, that seems great. What do I do? What do I do now?" And what you
But
do
okay,
now is
first
look
of
at
all,
the chart.
how important is this on a scale from 1 to 10 if you're trading long term, short term?
It's crucial. Everything, any asset that's correlated with global liquidity, you need to know what global liquidity is doing in order to figure out if it's going to go up and down. If you're trading at all or investing at all, you need to know it. It's basically the equivalent of knowing what the seasons are if you're a farmer.
And is
If you don't,
crypto correlated with global liquidity?
it is the asset that is the most correlated with global liquidity.
Oh,
I
so
mean, you can maybe make the case that the US dollar is, but that's like saying
on
that
the nose.
water is correlated with the river that it's in. It's like, well, sure, that's what we're measuring, dollars, the availability of dollars.
Gotcha.
So I think Bitcoin is correlated like 87% or more with global liquidity, which is pretty freaking high.
Kind of weird, kind of nuts how most people maybe don't know about global liquidity, considering how correlated it is.
Well, it's not immediately obvious. Like I was telling the guy on Reddit, you have to look at there's all kinds of different factors that come into play, right? Because the availability of dollars or dollars become available because of financial institutions and such as central banks or just regular banks through fiscal spending from governments, through loans that are created between entities, and so no one is 100% clear of how many dollars there are out there, right? So it's like if I were to tell you, um, Peter, this river here that's flowing in front of us, how many gallons of water is in it? You might not know, right? You're not going to have that information readily at hand. You have to do all kinds of calculations in order to figure it out. But if I were to tell you, well, is the water level increasing or decreasing? Well, that you can tell just by looking at it and paying attention to it over time. You can
Right.
say, yeah, I can see the riverbed or near low, so there's less water, and it's higher, there's more water, and so that'll tell you if there's more fish in there, what you can do with that river, and all that sort of thing. And you need less technical know-how in order to process that information.
All right. So you said that you created this indicator that has these signals, and you didn't create this for Bitcoin. You created this for global liquidity, and it tracks for pretty much any chart you want to look at.
Well, any asset that correlates with global liquidity. So if I were to take a look, let's say at the S&P, the S&P is not the exact same chart as Bitcoin, and so here it also has its own thing. So we see that at ebbs the price generally falls down, and at flows the price generally goes up. But because the S&P also moves on options, which is a whole other topic, where people are buying not necessarily for based on liquidity, they're buying for other reasons and moves the price up. You get this sort of like way bigger swings. You get these like ups and downs and ups and downs in the chart, because even though it might say the number of dollars are coming down, like over here it said the number of dollars are coming down in July of 2022, but the price still ran up because there's this weird like inertia, this momentum that happens in certain stocks where the options, which is a type of thing you could trade, actually causes the price to move up. But then, as you saw, as soon as that process stopped, it reversed and came crashing down.
All right. So global liquidity is the amount of dollars that are flowing through the system.
Well, it's measuring the flow of dollars, not the net amount of them, because no one knows how many dollars are
Right.
actually flowing around the global system, but you're just measuring basically the, the water level. Is it flowing a lot or is it flowing less?
And does Jerome Powell, does Jerry have any impact on this?
It depends who you talk to. Yes, the central bank's balance sheet, which is to say the central banks that adjust interest rates in a given population, and then also have the ability to buy assets. They can buy assets in the financial markets in order to add add well, they're adding liquidity to the market by making sure that if someone wants to sell an asset, that they can sell it without having to give it a huge discount. Um, they're in a sense adding liquidity to a market, whether that's actually adding dollars to the system, additional new dollars is debated, but it doesn't really matter because most dollars that are created are not created by the central bank or the American government. We're talking about, when we're saying dollars here, we're talking about a euro dollar. We're talking about the US dollar, but the US dollar that's throughout the entire world. So I don't know if I'm making myself clear here, but there are more dollars that are created and flowing outside of the United States than there are inside of the United States,
Right.
since
Right.
there are far more people, far more entities outside. And the process by which those dollars are created isn't just, oh, the Federal Reserve is printing money and those dollars get flow around the world. There are trillions and trillions of dollars that are flowing around, and they're created in all kinds of interesting ways. So if you take a look at those different ways that they're created, and you pull some of that data, you can sort of get a sense of, are there is there I think of it as tributaries to a river. You pay attention to the tributaries, and if the tributaries, the flow is increasing, then of course the river that they're all coming into will increase as well.
And that's what you did for your indicator.
That's right.
All right. So you did all the heavy lifting. So I don't even actually have to understand global liquidity. All I need is this indicator, it sounds like.
Peter, and we come back full circle to what I said at the beginning. Just look at the lines in the chart. When it says red, you sell, and when it says green, you buy. You get it. You get it. All right. So this week, what I saw here was that I had a signal on the weekly, which is looking at a broader set of data to see if there's an increase in the flow. And I said, yes, there's starting to be an increase in the flow. But that flow signal did not show on the daily, which means that it was a minor increase in the flow and wasn't significant enough to say, well, on the daily now it'll matter. I don't know if I'm making myself clear on that. The longer the data you're looking at, the more you can measure certain changes, and the shorter the time frame you're looking at, the more that change needs to be significant for it to register.
Right.
And so I was waiting for this flow signal to go from, like, at first it'll show in the monthly, and then it'll show in the weekly, and now today or last night it switched and it started to develop on the daily. So now on the daily chart, this flow signal is here, and it wasn't there before. It wasn't there yesterday, or the day before yesterday.
And that's good news.
That's really good news. That's saying that the case for the flow of dollars is actually becoming stronger. So today, if this candle closes, which is to say all the data for that day is processed, which happens in the next 11 hours, if this guy is still here, it could disappear. If it turns out that the number of dollars flowing in the system sort of ebbs back, then that signal will disappear. If it stays by in the next 11 hours, that to me would be a confirmation that the number of dollars within the system is definitely increasing. And what we see after that is usually anywhere between a 30% to 80% rise in Bitcoin. So if we see it here before, we see the signal in January where flow showed up on the daily, and then we had the price went up. If you count it to this high, 35%. If you count it to the next signal that says to sell, it would be 55%. Let's go with the 33%.